Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Pat Tykowski joining us, our functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner and owner of Vital Roots FX Nutrition, based out of Orlando, Florida. She's here, happy and sunny, of course, bringing the good weather to us around the world, I hope. But to talk more about, functional nutrition, we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition in general and so much more, and the root causes of some problems here. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great, Jill. Thank you for having me.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for being on our show. I would love to get a little overview before we dive into details later about what exactly it is that you do.
I'm a functional nutrition practitioner, and I work with people that have chronic conditions to help address the root causes of those conditions. So,
beautiful. Well, you say unlocking vitality from the roots upwards, right? So you're empowering
Correct.
people to live their best life through functional nutrition, lifestyle improvement. And for those that just, starting off with the basics, tell me a little bit about your background and what it is to be a certified functional nutrition consultant and functional nutrition lifestyle practitioner. Could you just share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. Well, this is my second career. I worked for 30 years as an accountant. And then I've always been interested in nutrition and health. I was sold supplements for a long time and had my own personal health challenges that kind of motivated me, to really take care of my health. And then when the pandemic hit, I just realized how afraid everybody was that, of this bug that was going around to get sick. And I just thought that that people needed more information about how to stay healthy, as well as, take charge of their own health. And I just saw that, some of the people lost trust in the medical system. So I just feel like this is a really good time to, to make my career change. And so I went through two courses, certifications from the Functional Nutrition Alliance that was started by Andrea Nakayama. And those courses, go through the body and the body systems, how everything's supposed to work, and really help us to be detectives on what's happening in the body when it's not, when we're not living our full energetic and vital lives.
Well, this is amazing. I was also reading, I just want to go back a little bit. So I know you always had a passion for helping people as a child.
Yes.
And by the way, where did you grow up?
I grew up in southwestern Michigan.
Okay. And then what transitioned you to Orlando?
There was a whole lot of moves in between there. I went to college in Wisconsin, and I worked in Wisconsin, and then went to graduate school in South Carolina, and back to Wisconsin, and then I lived in Germany as an expatriate for 3 years.
Wow.
So I've been in Florida now for 24 years. So.
And then now, hold on, you spent over 30 years as an accountant. So tell me a little bit of your backstory. And then I know you mentioned during COVID how you got into this field, but Tell me the earlier story too.
Okay, sure. Well, I grew up, in a lower middle class family. My dad was a blue collar worker, and we had everything we needed, but we didn't have money for extras, and so none of my family had gone to college, and that wasn't really a concept for me. But because of the college or the high school I went to, and everybody was really college minded, I decided I would pursue that. And so I joined the Army Reserve to earn money for college. And so I was in ROTC and as well as the reserves while I was through college to help pay my way. And so I got my bachelor's in accounting because that was practical. I wanted a job that had, long-term career, potential and growth, and that, that I could afford a certain standard of living. So, and then through the reserves, I went to Germany several times, and I just loved the German people. And so I learned German language. And then, I went to the University of South Carolina to get my master's in international business. So, yeah. So that was, it ended up being a 3-year process for me. And I did an internship in Germany as part of that program and, had language training the whole time as well. So, um, yeah. So after that, I worked for a couple years for a company called Johnson Controls in internal auditing, and then they had a position come open in Berlin. And so I worked in Berlin for 3 years as a plant controller, um, and then, came back to Michigan. So that was my last stop before coming to Florida. So,
Well, thank you for sharing that. This is amazing. I know you grew up as a middle child of 5 kids, you said. I mean, that's
yeah.
a lot. Wow, wow, wow. Now, let's dive into, specifically the work that you're doing here. You mentioned you want to stress to the fact that there really is a gap in healthcare. And again, you've had your own personal experience with this. Would you mind sharing?
Sure. If you think of, healthcare as a pyramid, you have the doctor at the top, which is kind of like, the 40,000-foot view, right? They've got a lot of education about, biology and chemistry and things like that. But, and they can make recommendations, but they don't have the time or maybe even it's not their scope to help people carry those recommendations out. And so if you have the patient at the bottom who has a diagnosis and it may have a scary name to it, or they're dealing with all of the effects of it, the fatigue, the brain fog, and maybe trying with Dr. Google, trying to figure things out, and so, they're really down here and, there can be a lot of anxiety and things like that. So, you know, as functional nutrition, we kind of come in the middle and, kind of say, okay, these are the recommendations or this is what you're dealing with. What is the body doing? What does the body need? How can we address these, signs, symptoms, and diagnosis as, from the roots upwards. So, and we come alongside the patient, the client, and, we help them, maybe ask better questions of their doctors, track things. Our big thing is assess, recommend, and track the art of the practice. So that people can kind of make those connections like, oh, when I eat this, this happens to me. I get really tired. Or, my eczema gets worse when I eat, A, B, or C. So, the power is trying to give the power back to the client and to know that they are, their own agent and, they have bodily autonomy to make decisions for themselves they're the expert on their own bodies, really. So trying to tap into that and then walk alongside them, right? To take some of that fear out of it, to know that they're not alone in the middle of it.
Thank you for sharing that. Now,
Yeah.
also, there's still so much more to the work that you're doing. We want to talk more about, the fact that, the counseling, the consulting, the education. How are you helping improve the lives of others? And I think this is the most important aspect because you love helping people. And
Yeah.
could you share about that?
Well, I mean, most people probably the last time they had biology was in high school, right?
Yeah,
And
probably.
and I didn't, we don't learn it as in depth as, what I've learned with the full body systems. And so to be able to, teach the client about their own body and how it should work and what are the different mechanisms that they can help be part of the detective as well and make those connections. Once they make the connections, then they can make those decisions for themselves, right? That how they want to live their lives and whether they go gluten free or dairy free or whatever it else helps them, gives them the power to make choices for themselves.
You do offer a 20-minute free strategy call to anyone interested in exploring, these types of coaching relationships. And let me ask you, how does it work to even start up? What are the things that you need from someone? Can we kind of go over like an in-depth intake, right? Because that's also
Sure.
brings some nerves to people. How long does it take? What is it all about? What do people need to bring to the table before we get started?
So Yeah, the 20-minute strategy call is just to clarify expectations, to see, there's a questionnaire that they fill out, and they go to my website and, click on the box that says, sign up for the strategy call. It'll take them right to the questionnaire, and they can even schedule their own session with me right from my website. And so that gives me a little bit of background information on what their concerns are and what they're looking to help with. And so then if they decide to go with me, the first three sessions are called the Vital Case Review. And that's where we really do a deep dive into the person's health. I mean, their health history. And, it's all important. Everything matters. Whether you were born naturally or C-section, whether you were breastfed as a child, what kind of diseases or symptoms family members have. That's all part of the picture and the puzzle that we're trying to put together of how did this person come to their diagnosis. There's triggers in our lives. Usually we have this load, right? We have a bucket, if you can think about it, right? And we get all these little insults and stuff poured into the bucket, and then sometimes the bucket just overflows. And usually that's when people start to experiencing, more chronic conditions. But everything that was poured into that bucket matters, and it gives us clues as to how they get to their diagnosis. And you can have, 50 people with the same diagnosis, but they didn't get to their disease in the same way, right? It's that bio-individuality where we're all individuals, and all of our lives are unique. We have different stressors, different environments, whether we grew up next to a factory or to power lines, or, what kind of water we drink, and things like that. All of those things, really impact us. One of the things in health and looking at people from a holistic model is that the whole thing about, you know, childhood trauma, right? That more and more we're finding out that illness is a reflection of unprocessed trauma. So, that while that's not in my scope, I'm not a therapist, but we can recommend and say, I think, this is still an issue for you. You may want us to look at it, but, treating the whole person, and nutrition and lifestyle are part of that. So anyway, the intake is pretty long. It can be intimidating for some people, but it just gives us the clues that we need, and we completed a timeline from that so that we can see it. And the client themselves can say, oh, I never put those two things together, right? That I had some illness back when I was a child, and, it was my mom and dad were going through divorce or something, right? There's different things because that's a stressful thing that can cause illness. So just, those different things on the timeline that can help us to see the picture better. And then we do what's called a matrix. We put the different parts of the body on a map just to see where they lay out, because a lot of times people can have different diagnoses, but it's all digestion related, or, the digestion is so much of a key to all of health. Hippocrates said that all disease begins in the gut. So, and I think that we're becoming more and more aware of that with all the talk of microbiome and everything. So
amazing. Well, could you give us some examples of some of the things that people are coming to you for? Some of the nutritional, the health needs that you're helping people with. I would love to hear, a story or two of someone that you've worked with and how you've helped them on their journey, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of different things. I was working with a woman with fibromyalgia, and which is basically lots of pain in her body, and people sometimes can think of that it's just a box they put you in when they don't know what else is wrong with you, but
Mm-hmm.
so some research shows a lot of that has to do with stress and the limbic system. So just we start from the beginning, right? There's like basics that with everybody, it's like we look at, are they sleeping? Are they pooping? And is their blood sugar balanced, right? That is like ground zero when you're stuck, working with somebody. Because if they're not sleeping, um, or pooping, they're not detoxifying, and you have to get everything working, right,
Yeah.
before you can move on to other things. So we need to figure out what the non-negotiables are for that person, right? That, the person that they have to be in bed by 10 o'clock, and get, maybe they need 8 hours of sleep or whatever, but helping the person to figure out what it is they need to do. Um, looking at all of the aspects of sleep, right? So that they can detox.
Oh,
Uh,
the importance of sleep. Does that even exist in a mom's world, right? How much
yeah.
sleep should we be getting, by the way? Is it true it's 8 hours, or is it really different for everybody's body? How do we
It
know?
really is. It really is different for everybody. I mean, they say 7 to 8 hours, some people mean nine. It just, depends on the individual. And, we get our mitochondria, which are the little energy makers in all of our cells. We get our energy from our mom. So we can look at our mothers and see how much energy do they have, right? And do I have the same or less than that? So, but it's like when we have inflammation in our body, our mitochondria are busy fighting inflammation and not producing energy. So it's really important to, address inflammation as well in a body. And that's, one of the things that causes a lot of pain. Like in my fibromyalgia is like, how do we, reduce and calm, and clear the inflammation and, looking at whether it's, food sensitivities, right? That food, it's not an allergy because we know when we have an allergy, right, we react to get hives, it could be anaphylaxis, right? But the food sensitivities are a little bit harder to get to because the symptoms don't happen sometimes until days later.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get the symptom, you're like, well, I have no idea why I have this,
Yeah.
right? Without tracking. And so one of the tools that we do is we have a tracker, what we call our food, mood, poop journal,
Yep.
that we can have people track, what did they eat? What was their, energy level? It's not just mood, but it's their energy level, any other symptoms that they're actually, concentrating on, brain fog, fatigue, bloated, whatever that is. And then so that they can kind of again make those connections and say, every time I eat
Eat.
strawberries, I get this rash, or not even that, my
Yeah.
eczema flares up, or something like that. So um, yeah.
Well, I appreciate, our time here. And if you are just tuning in saying, who are we speaking with? Don't forget, it's Pat Tykowski. We're joined by her live here today from Orlando, Florida. And by the way, you're helping people all over, or is it just in Florida? I just want to make sure I don't know the
All
gamut.
over. I can, we do virtual visits as well.
Sweet. Beautiful. All right. Well, what else did you want to share about functional nutrition, and of course, how you're, helping people and looking for these kind of root causes in our body?
So yeah, we mentioned, digestion as a root cause and inflammation as a root cause. Another of the root causes, what we call epigenetics. And so we are not victims of our DNA, right? Our DNA live in an environment. And so epigenetics is like that environment that your genes are living in that can either, promote the good DNA or that can cause, your DNA to turn on, some of the less desirable, characteristics that give you, dis-ease. So, and that, it can be a lot of things. Again, your food, your stress, relational environment. There's so many different things that can go into epigenetics. So, um, people aren't victims of their DNA. So that's what I want to say. It's like we can do a lot to help our health and everything by looking at those three things. So, and I just really have a passion that people that are go on the Doctor Road Show and they just not getting any answers, and the doctors just say your blood tests are fine, your tests are fine, there's nothing
You're like,
wrong
I
with
don't feel
you.
fine. There's something going on. Yeah, that happens all the
Right,
time.
right. So, that's where we come in because when you get blood work done, they have what's called pathological ranges, right? And it's based upon the average of the people in your region.
Yeah,
So you may not be outside the pathological, but
yeah,
we have called functional lab ranges. Where should a healthy person, where should their ranges be? And then we can address those ones that are kind of outside the functional before they get to be pathological, right?
yeah.
You know, um, you know, like A1C is one that a lot of people that, have prediabetes or whatever know of is your blood sugar measured over 3 months. Well, I mean, if everybody got their A1C measured, right, and to know where
Hmm.
they are, they can make steps before
Yeah,
they get to the point where they've got diabetes. There's a lot of stuff that you can do when you get those warning signs, right? It's like the engine light going on in your car, right? That
yeah,
you know to take it in for a tune-up to the service agent. So anyway,
exactly. Well, go ahead. I don't want to step on you.
no, you're fine. But so, I just really have a passion for helping people, just live their vital lives and be, as a whole person. It's like you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. Um, and, you're a whole person. We're not going to divide you into your parts. You know, it all matters,
Yep.
and it's all connected.
Beautiful. Well, also, you mentioned in your notes I was reading, and it made me actually laugh, but it's kind of the truth. You were talking about how the doctors on top of like the doctor-patient relationship, the
Yeah.
triangle you say is like it's up at the 40,000 foot level, right? And we're at the
Right. Yeah.
base. You come in and are filling that huge gap in between because and there's a place for everything, like you mentioned, medicine and holistic, nutrition and healing, and
Exactly.
also this is so beautiful because it's doctors don't really get that nutritional training,
Right. Right.
gosh, I'm thinking of the old school. Do you remember the food pyramid triangle?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, you mentioned like we as patients have weeds, and we're trying to
Right.
pull out what it is. And now, do you also make sure before they come to you that they are under a doctor's care? Is that a requirement or not? Do they need to? How does that part
No, it's
work?
it's not a requirement. I mean, obviously, I can make recommendations depending upon what's going on. I mean, one of the as part of the intake form and looking at different things as we go down the road and explore different options, there may be some time that they, need to have a test or something like that, if I can write a letter to the doctor and say, hey, these are the things that I'm seeing. I think I would really like you to run, this lab test because I think it could be, instructive as to what's going on with this person. So it's no, it's not a requirement. We're here to make recommendations, and again, it's that personal autonomy with that client, right? They're the ones that are the one making the decisions for their own bodies.
All right, thank you so much. And we still have 4 more minutes left in your show. So, being it's our first show, we're excited to learn about all that you provide with functional nutrition. And what would you say to someone out there who's maybe interested in, calling someone and finding out more about this? I just, how did you kind of want to sum up your show for today?
Well, I mean, you go to my website. It's www.vitalrootsfxn.com. You can contact me if you have questions. There's, my website, or if you want to schedule a strategy call, you can click on that button, and I'd be glad to talk with you about whatever it is that you're, concerned about, what you're looking for. And, I can tell you whether or not that's in my scope of interest, my scope of practice, right? Because I'm not in the state of Florida. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a nutritionist because those are legally, those are legally bounded terms, right? What becomes a nutritionist first. So, but we provide, nutrition expertise and, helping people to, really get to the root causes of what's going on with them and that they can have, a better life, more vital life. So.
Perfect. And let me ask, on a daily basis, currently, how is your health? How are you doing, by the way?
I'm on my own journey, right? So, I thankfully I run my own blood tests, and I found out that I myself have elevated thyroid antibodies and what's called subclinical hypothyroid. So, I myself am on my own journey of how to, dismantle that, and looking at the different, causes. It could be some people have infections,
Mm-hmm.
some people have toxicity, you know, with autoimmune, there can be a lot of different things. And um, yeah, autoimmunity has got a lot of different components. But again, you go back to digestion and what we call
Well,
intestinal permeability.
well, we always hear. I just want to ask you about. Everyone
Yeah.
talks about prebiotics and the gut biome and the gut. What is the gut biome exactly, and how important is that in what you're doing?
Oh, it's so important because they call it our second brain, our
Yeah.
gut. And it's like if you, as a baby, were breastfed, that's like the best protection
Mm-hmm.
that, your mother could give you because the mother's passing down her own microbiome to you. And it's, all of the coding, they say sometimes we're more, bacteria and virus than we are human
Yeah.
cells. There's so much intelligence in our microbiome. And like I grew up, being on antibiotics a lot, and that my antibiotics just kind of wipe out,
Mm-hmm.
your microbiome. And, when I was a child, we didn't know anything about the microbiome and having, to reseed that, um, with good bacteria. I think we're, much more, advanced as far as understanding the microbiome, but there's still so much to learn as far as um, what bacteria does what in the body.
Got it.
But, even the bacteria that breaks down the food that we eat, I think some of the times that we can't digest things anymore because we don't have those bacteria anymore. So it's about replacing with as much, diverse bacteria as possible
Mm-hmm.
in as many different forms as possible. I'm a
And then it
really
gets so confusing because you look at the yogurt and it's lacidophilophilus and all these weird names. I'm like, what does this mean? Do I really need 40 billion or do I need trillion or do I need? That's why we need Pat in our lives. We need someone like Pat.
Yeah, it can be really confusing, and there's so many different types of probiotics out there, and which ones work and which ones don't. I've asked access to a dispensary of Full Script that these products are curated by the people at Full Script,
Yep.
so they're doing the background checks on them, and we can have pretty good confidence that the probiotics are good. But then again, you get bioindividuality, and what works for one person may not work for another. So it's a bit of a process to figure out what
Yeah,
works, for one person versus another.
absolutely.
So, but yeah, it's really important, cultured vegetables, kefir, yogurt, all those different things are so important. Things that you can do without spending a lot of money to help improve your microbiome.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you today. We appreciate your time here, Pat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jill. I appreciate it.
Now, how can we reach out to you?
Um, I'm at Vital Roots,
Mm-hmm.
one word, fxn.com. My business line is 407-615-4433. So either call me, my email is info at vitalrootsfxn.com. You can send me an email there, or like I said, go on my website, either under contact me, ask me a question, or sign up for a 20-minute free strategy call.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you, and hopefully we will connect again. Thank you for doing what you do, okay?
Thank you, Jill.
You have a great day, and to all of our listeners and viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more.
All right, bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.